Good evening, and welcome to this meeting of the Old Kings Highway Committee of the Town of Yarmouth, which is being held in accordance with Chapter 470 of the Acts of 1973 as amended at 7:17 p.m. on Monday, February 12, 2024, at the Yarmouth Town Hall Hearing Room located at 1146 Route 28, South Yarmouth. Moreover, pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, considering certain COVID-19 measures, this meeting is being held in hybrid mode, meaning there is live participation, there will be some Zoom participation, there may be some phone participation as well. 8 new applications for certificates of appropriateness will be heard this evening in the order listed on the agenda. Please be reminded that our committee's main purpose is to review items for appropriateness and setting, and it is the responsibility of the applicant to comply with the regulations of other town boards and departments, including building, conservation, engineering, health, zoning, and the sign inspector. You should know that there is a 10-calendar-day appeal period starting once a decision is filed with the town clerk. Any person aggrieved by our decision tonight can appeal to the Regional Commission of the Old Kings Highway Historic District. Our office administrator, Lisa Sherman, will be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this process. So, speaking of process, our process here is for the applicant and/or the applicant's representatives, if present, to come before the microphones here at the table in front of us, tell us who you are, and present your application without interruption from this committee or members of the public, after which the committee will be free to make comments and ask questions, and after that, the public, especially abutters, but any interested member or members of the public will be free to ask questions and make comments, and if you're present in the room, kindly go to that podium and speak into that microphone. And once again, identify yourself, where you live, and what your comments or questions are. So having said all of that, the first item on the agenda is 24-A010. It's to convert a porch and expand the kitchen and move the main entrance at 118 Driftwood Lane. Craig and Jane O'Day or Odette are the owners, and William Duchesne is the agent. And who do we have here for this application?
The owner's agent, Bill Duchesne.
Okay.
And this is the homeowner.
Hi. Hi, Jane.
Oh. Okay.
Musical chairs. I am Julie Lyons. I am the partner, co-owner of the design studio doing the work.
Okay, and who would like to present?
I'll do the best I can.
Fine.
So as it read, I think there was some misunderstanding right out of the gate. When I wrote the word expand, we're expanding the kitchen into that porch. We are not adding on to the home. So I just want to make sure that was clear. It wasn't clear in the building department. So we are closing in the porch, making that part of the kitchen, and then on the water side, there is a existing screen porch that we would like to turn into a four-season room by putting windows in and things of that nature.
Is that it?
Pretty much it.
Okay. So this is what is commonly termed a pork chop lot. So long distance from Driftwood to the house, difficult to actually see the house from Driftwood. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
Not I found it pleasing.
I think it's an improvement. I'm just curious, the area where the front entrance was, up to the porch, this elevation, it
Correct.
looks almost, is this a solid panel and then windows above?
That's going to be a solid panel. Right now, that is the deck and the...
Yes, that's the deck, and you enter up here.
Yeah, it opens the main, what we call the main entrance, opens right into the kitchen. It's not obviously ideal.
And then, am I correct that you're putting effectively here, what was an open railing is becoming a solid rail?
Correct, yes.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
No?
Any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve
I second.
24-A010.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, kindly say aye.
Aye.
And aye. So
Thank you
before
for
you
giving
leave,
Existing
would you
and
sign this
new
document,
elevations.
which simply indicates that if you're going to make any changes, you'll let us know. Come before us and sign the document, please. Okay. Go.
Everybody does it. Congratulations! You passed the test.
All right, you're all set? Thank you very much. Stapled together, but
Yeah, we can do it. Oh, my-
Room here. Not at all.
the second item on the agenda is to replace two windows at 1B Walnut Street. Peter and Francis Foynes are the owners, and Southern New England Windows is the agent. And who do we have for this application tonight?
I don't see
That there's
anybody.
no one?
Oh, somebody's hand is up.
Somebody's hand is raised.
Okay.
Even,
Would you identify yourself, please?
you have to let him in, James Paul. Stephen Sugar?
We can't hear you.
Here he is. Seeger, thank you. Here he is. Can you say something? Still muted. Unmute yourself, Stephen.
We could hear you for a moment.
There you go.
There he
Hear me
is.
now?
There you go. Okay,
Excellent.
You got me?
very good. Tell us about your application.
All right. So Steve Seeger with Renewal by Anderson, representing Peter and Francis Foynes, replacing two windows. I'll start in the back. It's a double casement, replacing that with an awning window. It's in the back, not visible at all to really anybody but themselves. That's window number one. If there's any questions, I can address for that one.
I just was curious, so an awning window, does that mean it opens up like this?
You got exactly. So that'll go out about 90 degrees, come out straight like that.
Yeah.
If it opens the other way, it's a hopper window.
Oh, good to know.
You could almost say like a basement hopper window. Yes.
And the front?
So the front window, what that is right now, that is a 1111 casement two casements of flanker windows that go out, and then the two centers are casements. Replacing that with a 1-2-1 gliding window. So those flanker windows will be gliders that will just move in. And then that center window, those 2-1-1s are going to be a big stationary window in the middle, taking that check rail right up in the middle to basically give them a different view. The flankers on the right-hand side and the left-hand side are going to be 2 across, 4 down, matching the grid pattern. And then the middle stationary window is we're going to take the grills out to just give them that better view. Part of the reason why they get rid of that check rail in the middle.
Good. Right,
Is that it?
yep.
Stephen, is that it?
That was it. Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the committee?
It's fine with me.
Any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And aye. Congratulations.
I thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Good
Nice
evening.
You as well.
Thank you.
The third item on the agenda is 24-A012. It's to construct a storage shed at 938 Route 6A. Dale Orman is the owner, and Pine Harbor Wood Products is the agent. And who do we have tonight?
Jamie McGrath from Pine Harbor.
Okay, tell us about your shed.
Well, Mr. Orman has a nice barn down there on the corner of Bray Farm Road and Route 6A, and we are proposing to build a small storage shed to the back right side of that will kind of mimic that barn. It's got hinge doors with the little sliding door track that the big barn has, and it'll sit back in the right-hand corner there and go away white cedar shingles, and I think it's cedar trim too. Whatever the trim is on the barn is what we're doing on the shed. Happy to answer questions.
So the picture, excuse me, I'll wait till you're, open it up. Here, you good?
Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay.
I was pushing
Questions or
it.
comments from the committee?
Sorry. The picture is the barn.
Picture is the barn.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, shed elevations are in there.
Yeah.
It does have a little transom window, just like the barn does and everything.
Looks fine to me.
My only comment is, I think it's a handsome little structure, is that that slider hardware hood that you've put over to mimic the barn seems kind of incongruous when you have such prominent hinges. It's obvious that it's a fake kind of thing. That's I think it's unnecessary, because it isn't a sliding door, and it's very clearly not from the 6 hinges. That's my only comment. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not it's just a little bit of,
Yeah, the barn has it. We put it on the plan. If we'd rather get rid of the little roof. I think it's a hinge door for sure, so.
yeah,
So you're happy with eliminating that element? I think the
I don't
Vice
think Mr.
Chairman is
Roman would
correct
care
on
that
that.
much. We put it in there as to kind of.
Okay, so we'll make that amendment. Any other comments or questions from the committee? Hearing any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the
Actually,
public?
you know what? Can I have an either or on that and say
Either
get rid
or.
of? Because I'm looking at, there is actually, I thought they could be fake hinges and it's a sliding door. And I would do, because the more I look at this, there is there's little galvy track up there, so the
might
hangers
be.
are on the door, so it could be fake hinges, which,
Then ditch the hinges.
Yes, so why not get rid of one or the other?
door, or we'll eliminate
That's fine
eliminating the
with me.
hinges, or
Or
we'll,
the other, whichever is non-functional.
If
I
they're sliding
can't
doors, you
imagine that's
ditch the
wrong.
hinges. If they're hinge doors, you ditch the hood.
Okay, you're fine with that?
if you're fine with that, I'm fine with that. I'll talk to Dale and we'll figure that out.
The doors won't open fully.
Yeah, the doors won't, I will say the doors won't open fully if
Well,
they're,
yeah, we can inset the rollers a little bit, but you're right. I mean, he might get a 5-foot opening instead
either
of 6.
or,
Okay. One way or the other, we'll eliminate either or.
yes.
Right, okay. Any other questions or comments from
It's
the
a
committee?
little tighter on the small shed than it was on the big
Yes,
barn
on the big
elevation,
barn.
so I don't disagree with that. Fine.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And aye.
He has joined
Aye.
us.
You wish to vote, Cindy?
Aye.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, and if you would sign this document, which we know what changes you're going to make, but if there's anything other than the either-or changes, you'll let us know. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He's with us for the next one, too.
Do you want an amendment?
I think we'll just, I think it's fine. You know, if they're hinges, you ditch the hood. If it's the sliders, you ditch the hinges. It's as simple as that. I look forward to seeing what you end up with.
We voted with an amendment, did we?
Well,
That's what we were just discussing, if whether
No,
we
but
need to
we-
write it up.
Do we, well, if we voted for an amendment, I think we need to write it up.
I don't think it would be, needs to be very lengthy.
No, but I think it needs to be
Okay.
noted,
It's on the
unfortunately.
record.
Good.
You just write either hinges or slider, not both, something like that.
Thank you.
You're all set.
He is the next one, too.
Oh, you're the next one?
I'm sorry.
Okay, then you're not all set.
He just can't stay away.
All right.
Great, thank you.
Sign that, too. Lisa, would you mind
She'll finish-
filling
she'll finish
that
it.
up for me?
She
Thank
told
you.
me
The
she would.
address.
Sign it, yeah, you'll just sign it and fill in the rest of it.
Did we sign that one? I don't recall. Did I already sign?
You did.
We did, okay.
Didn't we do that?
No, I don't think we,
Yes, it's all signed.
sorry. It was a long time ago.
All right. Okay. Item number 4 is 24-A013. It's to construct a detached barn at 25 Marshside Drive. Robert Fatta is the owner, and Pine Harbor Wood Products is the agent. So,
And Jamie McGrath from Pine Harbor, proposing to build a storage barn workshop. If you know where Marshside is, it's actually down Bray Farm, well, kind of a little cul-de-sac area back there. Barn we've built a couple of different times. Sliding doors, white cedar shakes, clapboards painted match the house on the front, which I believe is white. The house is white, it's a big colonial. Cupola and simulated divided light windows on a foundation. Happy to answer any questions.
My comment, are you done, sir?
Yep.
I think it's very handsome. I think the cupola is a
Yeah,
little
the
too
cupola does,
small.
yeah.
I mean, it's very kind of vestigial. I think it needs to be bigger.
Yep. Done. I couldn't agree with you more. It's terrible.
What did you say?
I said it's terrible.
Yeah. Needs to be bigger.
They just
We were
plopped it
trying to
on
be a
there
little more
without looking at
diplomatic.
this, but we'll do like a 30-inch cupola. We'll upgrade that, and
There now.
it's probably like 20 or 24 or something, and it's terrible. I noticed that
barn
over
could
there.
Take a more substantial cupola.
100% agree.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the committee? Ready for another amendment?
You know, I'll leave it to you. You folks do very handsome structures. They're very nicely proportioned. Just make it proportional with the massing of the building.
Yeah, no doubt. That's.
That's how I'm
I
gonna
said
write
this
it.
to myself over there. I said, "Ooh, that's terrible."
Proportional to the massing of the building.
Okay, so, same thing, if you would sign this
We didn't vote yet.
document.
You didn't vote either.
Well, all right.
Let's say that, no.
All in favor?
Move to approve
Have we-
24-A013.
Did I ask about the butters yet?
Butters, no.
Any interested butters or other members of the public who wish to address this? Hearing none, now I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
24-A013 with, are you making the amendment?
He always reads it. I'm ready right now. Larger cupola.
With an amendment?
As amended,
As
that's fine.
amended.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And aye.
Aye.
Larger
Cindy
cupola.
says aye.
And you will be free to go.
Free to go.
Thank you.
Bye, Jamie.
Thank you, you as well.
What did you do to yourself?
Yes, sir.
Little body work today. Collision with the sun.
Oh, I know that drill.
Yeah.
I have to do the cream.
I'm an annuity to my dermatologist. All right.
We have to sign.
Did I not sign it?
I don't think we signed that yet.
Didn't. We're moving so quickly.
We are moving.
We are, we're,
Speed
Let's
of
keep it
light.
that way.
Oh, Steve.
In a good way.
it's a good thing I have my other members here to keep me on the straight and
We
narrow.
are really, we are moving rather quickly.
Not individuals. Et voila.
You. Thank you.
Applications are taking less time than our paperwork.
All right, the next item on the agenda is 24-A014 to install 20 solar panels on the side and rear roofs at 73 Bray Farm Road South. Andrew Varley is the owner, and Sunround Installation Services is the agent, and,
And Stephen Kelly is here for Sunrun.
okay.
We are.
Steve?
Hi. We are proposing to put 20 panels on the home. I would tend to say side and side. I don't know if side and back are right. 6 panels on one plane that's visible from the street, and 14 panels on the front. And I did not get down early enough to see if it may be visible from the side street, but barely if it is. So we're trying to keep it as, minimally obstructive as we can, and we've got the 6 panels on the visible side that'll be blocked quite a bit by vegetation in the season. We have the black-on-black panels with the skirt along the front of it.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Steve, I'm just curious, I'm assuming, because I can't really, it's hard to tell, of course, with the resolution of this photograph, but that the 6 panels that are not centered on the roof, is that due to the amount of sun exposure that they would need?
It's got to be.
Because it looks like they could be, but it probably, with all the trees, and there are some substantial trees here, which is nice. All right.
So,
Question.
So I drove around, and the most conspicuous solar panels in the immediate vicinity are on Chandler Drive. There are 2 houses there that we approved that have very conspicuous panels on the front roof. I do have a question about the 6. In relationship to the total gain that you're getting, what percentage of that would be owing to those 6?
I'd have to get back to you on it.
No, it's 14 versus 6.
14 on one plane and 6 on the more northern plane.
So less than half.
Well, yeah, but
And
there's
it's the
also
north
the
side.
Solar South consideration. So as far as if you factor in orientation, maybe you may have to, I don't know, how about a guess, a reasonable guess?
I really can't. I don't want to throw a number out that
Are you thinking to eliminate them? Is
I'm
that why?
wondering if it's worth having them, because the other panels are really not visible at all. If there's an appreciable gain, I think that would probably sway the committee, or at least me.
Well, somewhere in here it tells us how much
And I,
they're gonna, the output of these.
of the 20. But I'd remind us that with the Sunrun business proposal, remember the case where we had the fellow who has panels on the back of his roof? He came back, Steve represented him because he needed to add panels to make the financials work. That's what we're dealing with here as well.
Well,
That-
we don't know that. That's why
Well,
we're asking the question.
Then tell him to come back, but I can tell you that that's why they don't want to put panels on if they don't need to put panels on. Sunrun is proposing this deal based on their running of the financials.
Right.
They're not going to put those panels on if it doesn't benefit them, and the homeowner,
Actually, it does.
well, we would put, we'd cover that whole roof if we were able to.
Thought you needed to.
If the production required by the homeowner
Right.
needed more panels, we would cover that entirely, I'm
But
sure.
we don't have that information, is how much, what kind of power the house uses over every month and every year. That's how they figure it, the output is necessary to cover the expense, right?
Right,
correct.
they're planning on producing X amount of energy. If we don't fulfill that goal, then.
Yeah, but you're also selling panels, so if you're financing them and selling them, if you're gonna sell more panels, you're gonna make more money.
no, I would disagree with that in terms of the
Is that
business
possible
proposal.
to disagree with?
Their business model, the construction part of it, is a very small part of where they're making their money. They're making money on energy. That's the Sunrun model. They are leasing these solar panels,
Right.
the systems to the homeowners. They're an energy company. So to think
They're
that they
also a
can,
financing company.
I agree, but I don't, if you want to send them back to run the numbers, then do
Well, no,
so.
I think in the future, though, I'd like to see those.
I can probably request them, I think, as part of
It should be part of the application.
Yeah,
It's not that, I mean,
It's
I think
probably-
somebody came up with a number, and we should have it.
right, no, I'm sure that it's part of the contract.
Yeah.
Which would be part of the submission to
Sure
the
would.
building department. I have not run across that in
Yeah,
one
you're
of
not
these
part of that.
historical.
You're looking for, you're the guy that does the work. Yeah, actually,
I'm interested in the permitting and getting the historic approval and
right,
things like that. I
So,
don't get into the sales aspect or
no, or the guarantee access.
in the computing of the,
You have a 20-year guarantee, right?
I think we're up to 25 now.
5, yeah. So,
that-
but, Sunrun stocks went down 86% last week.
Yeah.
Does that
No, they
influence
didn't go
our
down
approval
86%
of
last
this?
week.
Yeah, it is.
I think we're getting off the subject. Are they,
so.
are they minimally visible and is it objectionable? Isn't that what we really need to
Is
be
it
thinking
objectionable
about?
that they'll be there when Sunrun isn't in business any
That's
longer?
not what we're in charge of. We're in charge of,
I'm bringing it forth.
Let's not,
all right, thank you. I'm
I'll just go
terribly
on the
sorry,
record as
Mr.
saying-
Chairman, but I think that we need to stay focused on what we're supposed to be approving or disapproving of.
Right.
So I'll just go on the record to say that what factors into my mind always is the architecture onto which it's going. And in this instance, I have no objection to them at all.
Thank you, I agree.
okay. So, any other comments or questions from the committee regarding this application? Any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve 24-A014.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'll abstain.
Aye. Okay, Steve.
Did you say aye, Cindy?
Yes, she did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you know by now, Steve, you have to come up and sign this.
I'll be well prepared for that information next time.
Can't hurt.
I think especially if it's on the front, it'd probably be helpful, if it's visible.
You know I know.
Yeah. Have you done this, you've done this before? This isn't your first time here?
First rodeo.
Sorry about your issue there.
Yeah.
When did you discover it?
I fully sympathize.
Yeah.
Any younger, I had to stay on top of it.
Oh, good, I'm so glad you won the prize too,
Right.
knocking over the names.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll see you soon, I hope.
All right.
Hi, Steve.
See you.
Nope, I'm not signing.
Oh, you're not abstained, I'm sorry.
The next item on the agenda is 24-D001 to demolish portion of the rear as part of a renovation proposed at 30 Route 6A. Peggy and Bill Lyons are the owners, and KVC Builders is the agent. And who do we have this evening?
Go ahead, Matt. Okay, go ahead. My name's Matt Schiffer. I'm an architect with Hutker Architects in Falmouth, Mass.
Okay.
And Rob Kelly with KBC Builders.
Okay, great. So, tell us about your plan to demolish.
Okay, this is a very beautiful house on Route 6A, obviously, and surrounded by beautifully characterful houses next to it. We're actually tearing out one portion of it that has a sort of 70s kitchen an addition right here on this inside corner. And then we're maintaining the existing house, like the heart of the home right here. This was the original portion of the house. And then this barn right here was part of the original portion of the house. So we're gonna come in and take out this odd 70s kitchen that's very low and has strange little awning windows looking out towards the rear lawn, and replace it with sort of a matching gable that complements, and we also feel like pulls the historic house together better, both in plan and in elevation or perspective. So I can show you that right here. This is a rendering of the, here, I'll show you a big one. This is a rendering of the rear of it. So this is the existing gable here on the left. And then we're doing, this is where the living room was and the chimney and so forth. And then we're adding this portion and this right here.
Would you mind coming up to us so we can
Sure.
all see it close up?
Oh, it's much better, easier to understand. Thanks for the rendering. Yeah, that's great.
And while I have you here, sir, I know you're still presenting. Wow. Oh, is there one for each of us here?
This shows
Oh, no,
like
this is.
the existing trees and so forth, and I think the Comaquid Inn was over here on this side.
Okay.
Which no longer is
Yeah,
there.
right.
Who did this perspective?
Actually lived there, which, I did.
It's beautiful. Beautifully
It
done.
really is.
Thank you very much.
Can I have it for, no, just kidding.
So if I may, I know you're still presenting, and we typically don't interrupt, but I want to ask you a question, because even I, as an architect, it took me a few minutes. Is this pretty close? Because I looked at the listing plan, pretty close to kind of what's new. This is what was there. You're adding this bump out. This is, of course, a new deck. You're adding that. This was the original kind of footprint. You're bumping that all out. Effectively, you're demolishing this whole thing here. This you're keeping, you're adding this,
Yep.
and then we have a new deck.
Except this part right here
Yep.
is existing kind of, but we're kind of rebuilding it, replacing it. It's actually vinyl clad posts and so forth.
Oh, on the listing, it didn't show it.
Yeah, it's really,
Okay.
it's really awful if you go out there and look at the, there's really vinyl
So
clad.
referencing,
We're gonna like make it out of like cedar. or
okay,
teak, you
so
know.
focusing on the demolition aspect of it first, which is what's before us right now. So, show me exactly what's being demolished.
There's a one-story kitchen right here that's getting demolished.
Okay.
That has a hip roof that's sort of out of character with that gable roof.
You can't see it on
So-
this
No.
rendering, because it's in the back.
So this is the,
Yeah.
So Bob,
so this is what you're proposing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So Bob, if you look, see
So-
that image there is this facade. So what was there was back here, it's gone.
Yeah,
And, and the thing I said here was new. It wasn't on the listing plans that they had for this house, but what is there is kind of a ugly vinyl clad thing. So they're kind of keeping that, they're just rebuilding it. That's on the left.
yeah.
So
So,
we're doing it a much more authentic manner. And we're doing everything that's more to look like super authentic.
I'm sorry, your name again,
and
sir?
and the salient point
Schiffer?
is, this is all on the back of the house, not
Correct, it's
visible
all on
from
the
6A. Okay,
From the road, you only see like a little glimpse of, you only see like the tiniest little.
right. So, any other questions or comments from the committee on this, just the demolition aspect of this?
No.
No.
Okay. Any questions?
I'd
or-
kind of like to understand, I'm sorry, can I ask a quick question, please? So the section that they want to demolish is a 70s vintage, is that what I'm hearing?
I believe so. I believe it's like mid-70s.
Because that was not clear
Very strange.
in
It
the
has
application.
a galley kitchen. The refrigerator isn't located within.
Here it is.
It's actually in the mudroom behind it. And it's a little, it's very, very, very oddly planned.
Just like I drew.
Oh, yeah,
Existing.
right, that's it.
Oh,
Oh, she can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
did you hear that enough,
Did
Cindy?
you hear him, Cindy?
I heard, not really,
Okay,
because you weren't speaking in the microphone.
thank you for that.
Yeah, the kitchen we think was done in, somewhere around 78 or 79 or 80, somewhere in there.
Okay,
And it's one story and it has a hip roof on it. So it actually is kind of really out of character for the rest of the house. especially the historic portion of the house and the barn. And the scale of the kitchen, when you walk into it, is really low. And the windows have a cutoff point where you can't even look out without, they're these very tiny little awning windows that, as we were talking about before, hinge out like this.
Cindy,
And,
if you look at Realtor.com, you can see the listing for this, and you will see the kitchen is a very,
You'll see the picture of it,
it
yeah.
really speaks for itself. It's a very 70s kitchen. And also, it seems you're getting rid of that half-round window as well,
That's correct, yep.
which is,
Kind of
Full
odd,
plating.
yeah. It's not a real New England
no,
colonial
it's
thing.
just a 70s half-round
Yeah.
pseudo-Palladian
Okay,
thing going on.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You really feel.
That says it all.
It's at all.
Faux Palladian.
I've never heard of Palladian windows are so beautiful, and the term is used in most of them are so ugly. You see a real Palladian window, and you're like, oh, these are actually
So
quite
Cindy,
beautiful.
are you satisfied at this point?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Are there any other comments or questions from the committee regarding the demolition?
No.
No.
Are there any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Approve the demolition request.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye and aye. So,
Thank you.
if you'll come up and sign this, which says if you're going to change any aspect of the demolition, you'll let us know. There you go.
Oh, come on.
You could do that.
Mr. Schiffer, while they sign, have you constructed this two-point perspective? Or did you just-
I used to do that a lot, like 3-point and 2 points, and, you know, and took a lot of rendering classes and stuff, but a lot of times now,
You just can
we'll do a
it.
wireframe on SketchUp.
And then you trace over it.
I'll sketch over it, yeah. And I'll use the existing, you know, house a lot, you know, but I also oftentimes sketch like that, too.
It's really lovely.
Thank you.
Sure does help.
Yeah.
And this seems, I looked at your website, you do very beautiful work. This is somewhat of a departure from the kind of work I see you've
Yeah.
done.
We've done a lot of historical stuff. There's less of that being shown, but we definitely have that body of work within our, I just did a thing out in Nantucket, Kevin and I did, and, you know, it was very much so historic, you know, to
But your
sort of
modern
match.
work has a very vernacular New England component to it as well, which is really very handsome.
It does, yeah. We try to rip like off of the agrarian sort of vernacular barn stuff and all that, you know. Sort of inspires sort of a cleaner, you know, modern, progressive, like, but also respects history kind of thing.
Okay. So, the next item on the agenda is 24-A015 to renovate the rear of 30 Route 6A. Peggy and Bill Lyons are the owners, and KVC Builders is the agent. So, tell us about the renovation.
Okay, the renovation is, it's in the main house structure, up above here. And it's also, we're not really going in the forward portions of the house at all, which are newer. It involves, this is new right here, but in here, we're actually sort of gonna rejigger the stair so that it's actually oriented the other way around, but we're gonna keep it as a, it's actually a, switchback stair at the end of the hallway. And we've done that to kind of open up the front entry a little bit and assist the living room in being a little more, have a better seating area. Because the living room right now just has a little, almost like,
We don't need
it has two little love seats and a small table in the middle. So we're trying to just get like two decent you know, a decent size sectional couch and maybe a card table in that alcove out in front. That also is part of the renovation, is replacing that strange little alcove in the front with a really good, you know, well-constructed and authentic piece right there. Then also the, Kevin, is there anything else you want to add to that? Okay. I think that's it. Upstairs, there's a couple of bathrooms that we're also reconfiguring, because right now you kind of walk through one room to get to another room to get to another room. It's similar to my wife's parents had a house that was built in 1768 on Route 6A in Dennis, across from Scargo Lake. And like every room, we had to go through everybody else's bedroom to get through to a bathroom, which it was really cool, but most people nowadays wouldn't. So we're just trying to fix a few of those things.
How much of this is going to be visible from 6A?
None of it, I don't
Okay,
think.
any questions, or are you done, by the way? Okay, any questions or comments from the
I
committee?
have a few comments. I just want to say, this is a beautifully thought-out project. When this house came on the market, which I couldn't even consider touching, but it had its own website. I remember it vividly, and drilled a little while. It was the times I was looking for a house, just looking at this beautiful house with this forecourt that's been created over time, and the rest of it. And there's one particular image that I loved of that master bedroom that's towards the street with that long, and I want to say they're giant bluestone slabs that are on this kind of, it's not really a colonnade, but anyway, it's a beautiful house. And as an architect, I'll tell you this, to see, it pays to hire an architect, because only an architect can see things this way. So just going to a builder. No, this is a beautiful house, but this is an improvement. It makes what is a really magnificent house more magnificent. Is that possible? But
I think the word is magnificenter.
Magnificenter.
Trying to pull it together more. Yeah.
Thank you. I should have known that myself. So it's just it's beautiful.
I have one question, if I may.
Certainly.
Being naive, the 4 elements that are on the north side, here, 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 what are those? Are those vents or windows or?
Oh, those are windows. So those are meant to sort of like have little apertures, basically, to look at the view that way is amazing. Like the whole landscape going down, has this rolling landscape that goes down to an inlet. So we're just trying to we like to have rooms that have like 2 or even 3 exposures in them. So we try to have as much like light,
Glass.
but also to do it, in a way so that you live better with natural light.
Sure.
But also respect, like, the historical nature of it.
I go so far as to say you're correcting some 1970s problems
Yes.
in what you've done.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from butters or other interested members of the public? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve this beautiful home application.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye?
My only question is, can we have a tour when it's done?
I move that we all take up residency in this beautiful.
Well,
Yeah, I'm all set.
Good luck with it. It's
okay,
a
if you'll
beautiful
just
home.
sign this. Same thing. If you're going to make any changes, you'll let us know.
All right, I'm
Great. And thank you very much.
Thank you for the great presentation, Mr. Schiffer. Thank you. Oh, you're rendering.
Oh, you can have it. Did you want it?
It would be nice wrapping paper. I'll use it for wrapping paper.
It's lovely. Here, take your drawing. Here. They're great. Anyway, those are helpful. We'll put them in the file. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Hello again.
Well, Rick, Bob, John, Jesse, how are you? Well, good.
It's quite a house.
It is.
Oh, my gosh.
I can't, I'm trying to remember who used to live there.
Oh, really? You knew the person?
Yeah,
that lived there?
we used to, it was drunken parties on the back lawn.
What? There's parties on the back lawn?
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful, that pool house, I mean, just
Oh,
that,
yeah, no, it's
beautifully sited.
Okay. Last item on the agenda, 24-A016 is to remove a chimney, replace a door with a window, replace a window with a patio door, and replace upstairs window at 405 Route 6A. Jesse Hagopian is the owner, and I believe he's here tonight. This application has been the subject of much local interest, and we have received a letter from an abutter, and I will read it into the record. To members of Yarmouth Old Kings Highway Committee from Joel Chasen, 404 Old Kings Highway, abutter to 405. I write to the Old Kings Highway Committee to protest the request for demolition of a chimney in the old kitchen at 405 Old Kings Highway. This old Cape Cod house, which dates back to the early 19th century, is a classic example of the half-cape house with original wainscoting, antique doors and latches, and 24-inch wide floorboards. This gem of a house formerly belonged to Miss Phoebe Taylor, with a plaque over the front door announcing it as Phoebe's house, designed, crafted, and painted for her by friend Herbert Sen, internationally known set designer for Broadway, Boston Ballet and Opera, and Cape Playhouse. Unfortunately, this sign disappeared within the past 2 years. The 3 fireplaces in this antique home lend themselves to the charm of the old Cape, and as a frequent visitor to this house when Sally White inherited it from Phoebe Taylor, the fireplaces were always in use. I don't understand why anyone would want to remove an original chimney and kitchen fireplace. Please vote no. Okay, with that preamble, present the application.
First of all, I want to apologize to the board because the chimney has been removed, and I realize that I should have come before the board before I removed it, and so I take responsibility for that. It is removed because during exploratory demo, it was come to find out it was not structurally sound. Water's been coming down it for years, and it was not historic. We think it was constructed, at least the lower portion, we found a stuffed Boston Globe newspaper into the masonry from 1966. So I had the chance to walk through the property with Bob and Rick on Friday, and there's a massive stone foundation that we've opened up. I think there was a beehive oven there or a larger cook stove fireplace system that was probably demoed and rebuilt in the 60s and not in a historic way. So we did have to remove it. So I'm here today to ask approval for that. We've made a couple changes. Should I discuss that, Bob, or do you want to?
Tell us.
Okay. A couple of the other items we're not going to request. We're not going to make the changes specific to the window upstairs that's in a bathroom. We're going to keep the historic window and figure out a way to keep it watertight. And then we are not going to add another doorway and remove a historic window. There's a small patio in the side of the house. We are going to request that the patio door that's there, that's not historic, be converted to a double-hung window.
Okay. Is that it, Jesse?
Yep.
So I should, for the record, inform the committee and the public that we were invited by the applicant to a site visit, and in order to avoid violating the open meeting law, there were only 2 of us present, which does not constitute a quorum. So the vice chairman and I went over at the invitation of the applicant and looked inside the house and outside the house. So we have some somewhat educated opinions about this application based on an inside inspection. This committee does not have governance over what happens inside of houses. We are restricted to evaluating exterior applications. But I did print up, for the benefit of the committee, pictures that the applicant gave to us of the fireplace in 2 stages of demolition.
That's these?
Yes.
And also a picture that was supplied by committee member Cindy Eckert of the chimney as it existed prior to the demolition. It was our opinion that, based on a forensic evaluation of the interior of the house, that neither the fireplace nor the chimney were original to the house.
Or to the
chimney.
L. Or to the L, just in
Right.
case the L postdates the house.
Actually not sure about that, but let me get into the chimney itself. The chimney's been moved. It originally, based on our evaluation, was bisected by the peak of the L addition, and it's been moved. Why? I don't know. As my father would have said, I wasn't there, but chances are good that it originally was corbelled over. I don't know if you're familiar with the corbelling process, but it's a process by which, course by course, the chimney is staggered over so that it can meet the peak. And when the chimney was reconstructed at some point, I don't know when, the masons who did the reconstruction built it straight up, so the courses were all in line, and that resulted in it being in the improper in the improper position from the standpoint of historic accuracy. There's also what masons have sometimes liked to refer to as a display or a cap on the top of the chimney, which is not historic in profile. It's not a true Gothic arch. It's not radiused. The 2 walls of the cap go up straight, so you can visualize this as a roof almost over the chimney. Very odd, very uncharacteristic from a historic or a geographical perspective. I'm not sure that I can recall having seen a similar detailing on the top of a chimney before. So, that is basically a summation of our findings.
Well, if also I may add.
Yes, certainly.
The front, but what Bob was alluding to, whether Bob was wondering whether the L might predate the house. It's quite old and has those 24-inch floorboards on the second floor. But regardless of that, there is in the main house no place for a cook hearth. So there's a front parlor that has a rather handsome Greek Revival mantle and fireplace, and on the back side there is now a hole for a stove, for a parlor stove, but it seems, because it is a Rumford fireplace in the front, are very shallow. Then on the back side there very well probably was at one point a hearth there and not a stove. But there is not enough room between those 2 walls in that chimney, that masonry mass, to have an oven or to have a cook hearth that's deep enough. So it would have had to have been in this L, which what was there was not a cook hearth. So it's clear that it at some point was lost and removed. And if I may just say, and just to be clear, I'll just go back a moment. My first meeting on this committee involved the removal of a chimney. My first night here, And I lost. You all voted to remove it. And I disagreed profoundly because if it's there, it's there. And as I always say, you hear me say it a lot, history is never wrong. It exists. Is it the original chimney? No. Was the chimney there big enough to support a cook hearth and an oven? No. So while I agree that it's not terribly important as a thing, as you know, I was the one that was probably most upset about this having been removed without prior approval. And I would just want to say that moving forward, people should keep in mind that it isn't, you can't just take it down. And I want to speak to the structural nature of it. These chimneys are made with high-lime mortar. It's very soft. It is, by its very nature, a sacrificial material, unlike the Portland cement mortars we use now, which, if you use on historic brick, will just spall it. It's harder than the brick. It will just destroy the brick. So you can't, if you repoint a historic masonry chimney with a Portland cement, you will destroy the masonry. So by their very nature, they have to be repointed, and very frequently, people don't do it. And over time, and I've seen it many times, and they do become, in fact, hazards. You have gravity holding these chimneys in place. But what that means is that they have to be taken down below the roof and rebuilt. But it doesn't mean they should just be demolished. So for anyone who, in that argument, and I'm not criticizing you for that argument that we hear a lot, and contractors love to tell it to their owners and roofers, is not one they should listen to, because it's just simply not true. It's true it has to be rebuilt, but it can be rebuilt. And it's easy to rebuild a chimney. So that said, being that we're here where we are, and getting to what the chairman said, we do have no purview over the interiors of these buildings at all. So the reality is, had this had its original beautiful stove, oven, and hearth, this could have been demolished. We had no purview over it, as long as they kept a platform on the attic level and kept the chimney going up through the roof, which quite frankly I would have insisted on if it was the original one. We have no purview over that. Having gone through the house, we discussed, what Mr. Hagopian intends to do. And it seems, and, I'll take you at your word, sir, that you want to really restore it. I know we discussed that at length about what to do, and even you wanted to remove a window in the original room, which you've now said, no, you're not going to do, and you've asked me for information on the rear L window, because there's going to be a bathroom in there. So I appreciate that, and I hope that you will, and I know that's not before us now, do that with it, because it's a pretty spectacular house. So I don't know what the committee's view on it is, but my feeling about it is, while I am unhappy it's gone, at this point, hoping that you're going to move forward with it, I would agree that it can be gone. To rebuild it, we don't know exactly the date of it. I don't know. I certainly, if it was rebuilt, I'd certainly question putting that pointed hood on it. But
I've seen them.
I've seen them too. It's an oddly shaped one, but I've seen them too. And in fact, there was one on an 1860s lighthouse that I restored. So it was in the form of an arch, but yes, it's there, and we restored it. So that's my comment on it.
So,
That's a lot of comments, but what's your point?
Yes, thank you.
well,
Yeah, so you're not, so it's okay with you that the
No,
chimney
but-
is not there?
so-
It isn't okay with me that it's not there, but I don't.
may I at this point? So while we do not have any control over the inside of the house, we do have control over what happens outside the house, and even though the chimney is gone, if we felt strongly as a committee about the loss of the chimney, and I want to hear from the public on this as well, we could mandate that something aesthetically convincing be put back on the roof, and I would suggest that we could also mandate that it be put back in the proper position, and perhaps
we
with a
don't
wooden
know.
frame, and, well, we can, the forensics can, they could be determined.
Could not see the purlins or anything that showed where it originally came through.
The rafters had been
Cut.
cut to indicate where the chimney went.
Okay, so this isn't conjecture, you saw this.
It's not pure conjecture. I
It
mean,
is a lot of conjecture if we rebuild something that wasn't.
well, if we were going to do this as a committee, if we were going to require this, and I'm not suggesting at this point that we should, but if we were going to, then there are available for our use preservation contractors who are capable of substantiating my strong feeling of where the chimney emerged through the roof. And so the location and the dimensions of the chimney width-wise can be determined. Those can be determined with a high degree of accuracy. The house has enough integrity to it so that roof has not been so disruptive as to make that not able to be determined. It can be determined. What we don't know is the height of the chimney.
The Secretary of the Interior standards are very specific that conjectural building of something is not acceptable. And while we might be able to determine.
Excuse me, just please. I sat at an appeal hearing for a sandwich appeal where the Sandwich Committee successfully mandated that windows that they strongly suspected, you could say it was conjectural, that had been removed from the front of a house be put back in the same location and with the same Mutton configuration that they believed was historically proper, and that decision was upheld.
Well, then that was a wrong decision in terms of
whether
preservation practice. It was incorrect.
Whether it's incorrect or not, it's precedent and therefore has validity.
No,
So,
I disagree,
well, it
Mr.
does.
Chairman. I
Interrupt
disagree
this
strongly.
Yes, go ahead.
Conversation and ask a question.
Yes, sure.
Okay. So the picture that we have and the existing home, there is a chimney in the old part that is still there.
It is still there, yes.
So the chimney that has been removed is in the addition.
We don't know that. Forgive me for interrupting. I have been on here for over a year. No, please finish.
Hold on, I'm chairman of this committee. Let Liz speak, and then you can speak, and everyone will get to speak.
Please go ahead.
So
Say it.
from my viewpoint, the front of the house, as I drive along 6A, has been preserved, and it's wonderful. Whether the second rear chimney, and this is why, one reason we approved the removal of the other chimney that Richard speaks of, is not as critical to me, and it sounds like it's a whole ball of wax to try to replace it. So I'm very happy that, from my viewpoint where I'm sitting, the original front house facing 6A has been preserved. Thank you.
All right, so I will now.
Advocating that it be restored, I'm saying we could
You're right.
mandate.
Mr.
if we
Chairman,
chose.
if I may now, I need to speak to something because it goes beyond this, and it goes to things coming out in the future and attitudes of this committee. I am the only registered architect on this committee. I'm a preservation architect at that. Sorry, it carries a little more weight. I know what I'm talking about. So when I tell you we must stop referring to L's, additions, and asking this question, we should ask it no longer, forever, is it original? Is it original? Is it original to the house? Stop saying it. It does not matter. It has absolutely zero relevance on whether it's important to preserve it. If you think it does, you're wrong. This isn't a matter of opinion. Facts are sticky and tough things. It doesn't matter. Period. So let me give you another example as I've given you before. The dome on our United
We've
States.
heard this,
No,
Rick,
please, yes, but I'm
please.
point of order, Mr. Chairman. I'm speaking.
Yes.
is not original to the building. Is it okay to remove it? It's not original. We have images of the original dome. We even know what it looks like, unlike this house where we don't have images of the original chimney. Is it okay to take it off? I think the answer is no. It has acquired significance. Whether something is original, be it an L or a window or a dormer, doesn't matter as long as it's acquired significance. Most every L on every house in this town is important. They were added whether they were original or a year later. As quickly as they could, they put them on. They served an important purpose. So stop saying whether it's original or not.
Okay, so we're not gonna say original anymore. Point made.
Yeah, fine.
That's fine.
We have a house.
Okay, we get it.
I think we get it, too. I think we get it. I'm going to cut it off at this point. I really have
No,
to.
listen.
We'll use the word historic.
not saying
I
you're-
think historic is fine. We can use the word historic.
Character
The-
defined.
That's fine, too. All of that's
We have the
fine.
word already existing.
Yeah.
Well, we
The
always
point-
ask whether
The
it's
point
original,
is, the
though, don't we?
chimney, the point is, with regard to this application, the chimney is no longer there. That gives us a certain, we have options here, is all I'm pointing to. Now, do we want to put we could certainly say, chimney's gone, it's barely visible from 6A. The chimney that's on there is, we don't know how old. It's historic in the sense that it was there, but whether it's 20th century or earlier, very difficult to determine from this picture. But if I was only pointing out that if we were going to do or mandate a restoration, then why not put it back where it belongs rather than put it back where it doesn't belong?
I don't know
That's
where
a
it
simple-
belongs.
Well, you don't, but I think,
Nor do you do, nor does your preservation
we could
masonry
just get-
contract.
I don't agree with you on that. It can be determined, the forensics can be determined, the integrity of that
So
roof
the
is
width,
sufficient.
length, and height can
Not
be
the height,
determined.
not the height.
Oh, so we don't know what the height will be. What should the height be?
Are we going to
Mr.
then
Chairman,
vote that
what
it
should
be
the height be?
replaced?
No, I'm only,
We just maybe deal
I,
with that.
this particular application has attracted so much public interest that I think we need to
Let's hear the
consider it very seriously. And if there are other comments from the committee that we haven't already gone over, I'd like to hear them. Otherwise, I think it's probably time to open it up to the public
understand.
and let members of the public
Yeah,
weigh
no,
in.
one thing, I'm just gonna say this. This chimney was existing in this place,
Yes,
and we have purview over that,
yes.
correct?
We can
Okay.
have purview over anything on the exterior of any house.
We don't know
In
when,
the historic
we don't
district.
know exactly where the original one was. All we know is this one was there.
Asserted that we
This one
don't
was
know.
there until it was demolished without a permit. Right?
We saw one rafter cut that suggests where it came out.
Yeah, I mean, we had a guy come that built his house 6 feet too tall, and the building department told us, we can make him take 6 feet off of that roof and remove the roof, okay? So don't say that we don't have the power to make this chimney be put back there.
No, I didn't say, am I saying that? No, I'm not saying that.
Just saying something substituting or,
Well, no, what I'm saying is you're not going to build it from the fireplace up through the house. It's if we're going to mandate that a chimney be reconstructed,
talking
it's going to
about-
be reconstructed from either below the roof or at the roof line or something. It's not going to be from the basement up through.
I think that would be the minimal I would agree with.
Well, I'm not saying, at this point, we're just having an open discussion.
We are,
Right.
between us.
Well, yes, at this point.
Shall we hear from the public?
I wish to,
Yes,
yes.
okay.
Cindy, did you want to say something?
Cindy, please.
You're muted, Cindy.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to unmute myself. My right arm is slow. I'm still listening to more I'm taking everything everyone has to say. I'm still undecided.
Okay, good. All right, so I guess we're done with the committee at this point. And we do have members of the public, luckily, thank God. So would you identify yourself and tell us what your interest is, perhaps where you live, and state your case?
Lisa and John Grady. I'm Lisa Grady, 415 Route 6A. I'm here to speak for us as neighbors and for my other neighbors as well. Excuse my voice, I lost part of my vocal cord years ago. It was
It's
from
fine.
another virus that went through town.
Lisa, why don't you pull that a little towards yourself?
Yeah,
Don't feel
I
you
work
have
a
to
little better.
strain.
Excuse me. The issue at 405 Route 6A is a symptom of a larger problem in the Old Kings Highway District. Those of us who have come before this committee with applications do it for the good of our community and believe that whether we own an antique or a 1970s ranch, we have a social contract as homeowners to preserve the character and history of the Old Kings Highway District. Having witnessed a number of violations over the years, I would like to thank this committee and the building department for working together to find a path to more effective enforcement of Old Kings Highway regulations. Phoebe's Cottages, described in the 1980s edition of Old Yarmouth Homes and Gathering Places, had been in the same family for 200 years, before Phoebe Taylor gifted it to Sally White in the 1990s. It's a rare example of a circa 1800 half-cape, one of 5 in the immediate area, our own included, with an L, okay, that were all built around the same time, not in the 1940s as this application states. The book also notes this home is retaining many original features. If there was ever an example of a home that should have had restrictive covenants in place, this would qualify. Seeing the sold sign that appeared in front of Sally's house last October came as a surprise to many neighbors. It was not offered to the public for sale, and those who know Sally believe her plans were to leave her house to a conservation or historic organization. Instead of continuing Phoebe Taylor and Sally White's legacy of stewardship, on a weekend in early December, the rear L chimney, a defining characteristic of many antique homes along Captain's Mile, was removed without an Old Kings Highway hearing or permit from either this committee or the building department. Images from Google Earth, as well as a photo taken for the comp-only sale submitted to MLS by the Marshallton Hagopian real estate team, show no visible signs of deterioration on the chimney, at least to the exterior part. Permits in the town records indicate that Sally White built the gazebo to the front of the property, and that in 2021, Title V was done, a new boiler was installed, and the roof of the house was replaced. This work would indicate someone was looking out for the property, and if the chimney needed repair, it would have also been done at that time. The more likely story is the chimney was an inconvenience with plans to remove a fireplace to make a bigger kitchen. As someone who has spent a good part of their life on the Cape, as a member of the Historical Society of Old Yarmouth, as an owner of an antique home on the Old Kings Highway, and as a realtor, Jesse is expected to follow a higher standard. He should be setting an example, and by his actions, he has disappointed not just the immediate neighbors, but any homeowner in the historic district who is committed to doing the right thing through the proper channels. The willful act of ignoring regulations and begging forgiveness later sets up a dangerous precedent when we allow people to do this without consequence. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, abutters or other interested in the members of the public who would like to speak to this?
We have a former member of the board there, Dr. Regnagel. Hi. How are you?
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Judith Recknagel, and I'm at 408 Route 6A, just the other side of the property in question. And I walk my dog every day there, and actually, when walking, the rear chimney really is easily visible. And I, too, was shocked that there was being a abutter, that there was no application, and that suddenly it was all just in bricks in the back. So I commend the committee. I believe it's someone had brought it to your attention, and you issued a stop work order, and I'm grateful for that. You know, living in the Old Kings Highway and having served on this committee in the past, my eye became, since I knew nothing, you have professionals as always, but I really knew nothing, but I learned how to look, and I learned how to see, and really I learned to appreciate things like the rear chimneys and, the type of windows and, the lines of the house. So, and I will also say I can remember in my time that the committee did ask that a chimney be restored. And even if it was no longer connected to a fireplace or to a hearth, that it was kept there for aesthetic purposes. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, good. By the way, I appreciate all of this. As I've said before, this is democracy in action, and it's gratifying to see that there is local concern about any application that comes before us. Yes, sir.
I'm John Grady, and I'm speaking here without Lisa's permission.
Oh, boy.
And I hope it doesn't get me in trouble. I just want to make a couple of comments on the issue of L's, which we've all been discussing. And our home is a half cape with the same layout as the one that we're talking about tonight. And in our home, the rear L, I can't tell if it was built the same time as the front of the house, but I suspect it was. And the reason I do is because there's forensic evidence in Steve Flack's house at 425 6A that shows that where the roof on the L overlaps the back shed on the main house, there's no shingles there and there are no nail holes there. So obviously that was built at the same time, give or take a day or a week, who knows, as the main house. So these L's were, in my opinion, probably not added later. They were part of the original construction in these homes. In ours, the fireplace in the location that it is in 405, the chimney rather, has a fireplace in our kitchen, which is very nice, and it's a working fireplace, although we don't use it, but the previous owners did. I know because I had to clean up after them. It also has an outlet for a stovepipe in the room on the other back side of the chimney, and underneath the chimney, there had been some cupboards in there that I discovered when I was doing some renovations on the chimney. So this goes back a long way. And I think that probably in the original house, the kitchen side was probably a cooking hearth. Right now, there's a Rumford fireplace in it, which matches the Rumford fireplaces in the main chimney in the front of the house, where we have two Rumfords and another one, a third fireplace in the dining room. So there was a lot of masonry in these homes. It was there for a purpose, for heating, for cooking. And removal of this, it's too bad, because there was an opportunity there to have something very charming in the kitchen where this was taken out. Perhaps the fireplace that was added in the 70s by Phoebe Taylor wasn't a work of art, but maybe a nicer fireplace could have been there to take advantage of the structure above. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to us? So it seems that we have three clear options here, maybe more, but three that are clear. One of which is we could approve this application, notwithstanding the fact that it comes before us after the fact, considering that there's no good remedy. We could mandate that some reasonable, convincing from the street at least, facsimile of a chimney be put back on the roof, either in its current location or where I consider it to be the proper location. So those are the three. If anyone can think of another option, I'd like to hear it, but that's what I think our choices are.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
We're just talking about the chimney, not the other. Did Jesse withdraw the other items on the application about the windows and door
Yes.
replacement? So we're just talking about just the chimney right now.
We're talking about the chimney.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And I'm going to read in standard number 3 from the Secretary of the Interior's Standards for Rehabilitation. Each property will be recognized as a physical record of its time, place, and use. Changes that create a false sense of historical development, such as adding conjectural features or elements from other historic properties, will not be undertaken. So I think, again, I've been very clear on the record for over a year on this, how I feel about these L's and these chimneys. And this idea that all chimneys have to come to the center of the roof is not one that is ground in any proven historical precedent. You see chimneys coming out of the sides of gabled roofs all the time. Yes, they usually come out of the middle, but they often don't, and often not on L's. I think, and this is very clearly important to everyone here, the public has come out. I've heard a lot of it outside of this committee. I would not in any way accept a reconstruction of this made out of veneer brick on plywood. Absolutely not. Inappropriate. It will delaminate. It will fall off. It will look terrible, and it won't take all that long. I've seen that too. So there's this.
Actually, yeah, I agree.
So
Can
the
I ask-
reality is reconstructing this thing, and I don't actually think this would affect your plan, Jesse, from what I saw, where it comes out from that bathroom you want. Not that that would be the reason I'd say it, but I don't know that it would really affect it. But I would say it would have to be rebuilt. Obviously, it doesn't have to function with masonry, full-size, appropriate bricks, as it was configured. And that would be the only thing I would approve. I would not approve any make-believe. I think it looked like this, possibly, who the hell knows, forgive me, but 18th century chimney or early 19th century chimney that we have no historical record of. We have a few cut rafters that suggest it might have come out of there. It may very well have, but we don't know how high it was. We don't know how deep it was. And we don't know what the cap looked like. But we know what this looked like because we have photographs of it. So this existed, and that was there. And quite frankly, and I'm going to say this referring to these little thin L chimneys are really very handsome. And we've talked a lot about 500 Route 6A. It lost its front chimney, which is very unfortunate. It was approved that way. It lost its L chimney, which was unfortunate. It was approved that way before I was here. That rear L chimney was this thin, slender little thing that really went up quite high. It was probably more beautiful than the front chimney. So these slender rear L chimneys are handsome things, and they're proportionate with the L. And it exists. We know what it looked like. It is not a conjectural component. So it's not that big a deal. A lot of work's going on this house to build a platform under the roof and then build with plywood, whatever you want, and then on top of that, to build a chimney that goes out that's properly flashed as though it was a real chimney, because it will be, that has a cap on it that doesn't allow water in it, so it won't need a flue, is not something that is outrageous to ask. And will discourage people from doing this in the future.
The fact of the matter is, if this had come before us to remove the chimney, I would suggest that it wouldn't have been approved.
I agree with you.
So
Can I ask-
therein lies the rub.
Now that you've visited the home and we have established then that the L is not a 1940s construction?
Oh, gosh.
What is it?
Can I clarify one thing? The 1940s is because the assessor has it, that date. We have no idea, I have no idea. I've looked into it as much as I can. We have no idea when the house is built, so.
It's heavy timber frame.
I put on the application 1940 question mark. I
Okay,
have no-
so you guys
Liz.
established that it is an older piece of
It has
architecture.
24-inch wide board floors.
Oh,
Yes.
the L is, could conceivably be the original house, actually. It's very old. So first of all, I'm in substantial agreement with what you've said, Rick, except for one thing. When you reference the Secretary of Interior standards, the word that you emphasize in the standards is conjectural. I would submit that it is not conjectural. It can be determined. In my own house, by the way, I have some creds too that I could cite here. I've been an antiquarian and an antiques dealer since 1974.
That's a very
I have a
different
long career. No, it's not. It involves forensic evaluation of antique furniture. Houses are not so very different. To determine if alterations or modifications or restorations have been made. I've spent a career analyzing antique furniture, and in my own house, which is a circa 1820 antique, it happens to be a full cape with an original L, by the way, and John, I was very interested to hear your analysis of your L, because I have exactly the same analysis of mine. No nails, no evidence of any siding on the inside wall in the attic of the L. The L is original, I'm convinced, by my own forensic examination. And my chimneys in my house were both moved. And both moved off the peak, and they both originally were bisected by the peak of the roofs, the primary roof and the L roof. And I know that because I made the evaluation by going up into the attics and looking at the attic ceiling and determining with my eyes where the original chimneys emerged through the roof. It's not difficult to do if the interior of the house has not been altered, as is the case in 405-6A and was the case in my house. So the question is, if we were to require, and I agree about real brick and real mortar, and if we were to require a rebuild of this chimney, do we want it to be in the location where it was, which one could argue is historically correct, which means it existed for a period of time? How long a period of time, we don't know. Or do we have the right, according to the Secretary of Interior standards, and I believe we do, because I don't believe it's conjectural. I believe it can be determined through forensics, as I've said, to put it back where it properly belongs, where it would look more correct in terms of the originality of the house. And as far as the height of it is concerned, we could make it the same height as the chimney as it existed before Jesse took it down. And if we wanted to recreate that cap, I guess we could recreate that cap so it would be exactly the same as the one that was taken down. It would just be in the original location. And perhaps we don't want to do that. Perhaps I don't know what we want to do at this point. But I have to take issue with the assertion that it's conjectural. It's only conjectural in terms of the height. It's not, and if we make it the same height, by the way, where it emerged through the roof in its original location is very cozy. It was very small in terms of the profile, and as I said, the height can be made the same as in the picture. Whether you want it to make it the same as it emerges through the roof or translate that to the peak and make it that height, I think those are niceties that you could deal with if we wanted to deal with it. So,
You're talking about two separate things, though. The chimney goes back up, but and then, okay, if we agree that the chimney needs to be replaced in a brick formation, in the same formation that it has now, but now you're talking about a separate thing, and I don't think we have the right to make him move it. I think it needs to come through the same spot that it existed when it was before it was demolished.
why?
Because that's what we have evidence of.
We also have a window on that L, which would have been built, constructed, exactly behind the chimney.
Which is the case in my house as well.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
But we don't know, do we? Because we have no images, no photographs, nothing that shows the original chimney with that window.
No, okay, that, I think you're getting beside the point here. Well, the point is that the chimney existed here.
Correct.
Okay, so, and what I believe our powers are to make the chimney be put back because it was taken down without a permit and without our permission, I don't think moving it is an option. I wouldn't, I understand what you're saying.
That certainly sidesteps the whole issue of the Secretary of Interior standards and whether it comports with it or not comports with it. But,
I would
so,
agree with you on just, let's put it
well,
back where-
okay,
where it
so
was in the
anyway, where are we with this? Yes, Cindy, please.
I would have to agree with John and Rick, where we have evidence of where the most recent chimney was. Putting it somewhere else is conjecture. We could possibly guess where it may have been, but I don't think we have enough data to support that. So I'd be more in
All right,
favor.
I guess I'm not going to win this
If we
argument.
require them to rebuild it where it was.
Okay.
I didn't hear the last, so what did you say, Cindy? Could you repeat the last
I
sentence?
agree with you, John, you and Rick, that we have evidence of where the chimney was most recently. We don't have any evidence to support where it may have been in the past.
Why do you say we don't have evidence? I wasn't,
We don't have
my
photographs.
statement wasn't compelling,
We don't
obviously.
have photographs of it. We don't have a photograph of what it would have looked like. We don't have a photograph
Well,
of
do we
how
need a
high it
photograph?
was.
Do we
Well,
need a
if you're going to
photograph?
say it needs to be over here, it needs to be 20 feet high versus 18 feet high, it needs to have a blah, blah, blah cap instead of the bishop's arch, whatever it's called. I don't know the.
What did I miss there? I saw a few cut rafters. I saw nothing that gave me a length and a width for this chimney. Did you see something I missed?
I would.
You saw.
What I would
I saw no
propose.
purlins.
May I answer the question?
I'm just
I
making
would
my point.
propose that, with the permission of the applicant, that we go back there.
No.
With, well, you don't want to, listen, if it's a moot point as to whether it could be determined or not, that's one thing. If that's, it depends on what the issue is. Is the issue whether it can be determined exactly, precisely where the chimney was? Then I would suggest we get a definitive answer to that. If my opinion, and I'm willing to admit,
Who's
was
definitive answer?
I would say, well,
Preservation architect?
I would say Cindy's husband would be a
He's more definitive.
This is his field. He
What
does.
is my field,
He's
sir?
a contractor.
What is my field, sir?
Listen, let's really,
I move that we stop this conversation. It is not appropriate to be doing conjectural features where you think the chimney was. I saw no purlins. I saw no, maybe in your house. There was a definitive opening where you saw where it came up through the roof. And I think that's what you've told me in the past. There was nothing there that suggested this here.
well, that's your.
And I also agree with Mr. Stewart that the idea that we could tell someone,
okay,
not
all right,
only
all right.
you're going to move it, well, wait a moment. If we did in future, are you suggesting that we have the precedent that if someone invites us to their house and they want to keep this chimney, and we see where we think it might have been, we're not certain
I'm not
that we
suggesting
could
that.
tell them
You-
they have to
no.
remove the chimney and move it to this location?
That's absurd.
Well, I
never
agree. I
suggest-
agree that it's
never
absurd to do
suggested
what you're
that.
suggesting.
All right, let's stop the acrimony. It's not productive.
Well, you're
We have
acrimony on both sides, sir.
Motion?
Yes, please.
I move that we require this chimney be rebuilt exactly as it was, with solid masonry and mortar that matches historic. That would be a high-line mortar in its original location, that comes up through the roof and is properly flashed as though it was original chimney that has a cap on it because it's not going to be functioning in any way. That's my motion.
I think you want to make sure that it's clear you don't expect it to go down to the floor.
I said that, below the roof. So from the attic up, wherever they want to build it from the attic up, provided it is far enough down so that it can be properly flashed so it doesn't leak, and it is made of solid masonry. Well, it doesn't have to be solid. You can have it have like a fake flue in it. It's not going to have a flue. But it is a solid brick. It is a full-size brick. Not veneer brick. There's no plywood that comes out of the roof on this chimney. It's solid masonry
I
chimney.
think we have it.
Rick, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I believe you're probably all aware of the property that's under construction across from the village store, that they demoed the rear portion, they
Yes.
rebuilt it all. There's 2 chimneys that are being built there out of plywood. How did the board consider those? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know these buildings, but it's a modern building. I think they're terrible.
I think that house is the same, roughly the same, mid-1800s. The front of that house is.
We only saved the front
I don't know
portion
this
of it.
house.
Only the very front
one
portion
that,
was original, the rest was
Friday Club.
changed.
It's the one.
Oh, that?
Next to the
Oh,
Friday Club.
okay, I can speak to that. That was approved long before I was here by members that sit on this committee now, and it's dreadful, and it's terrible, and the chimney was moved to a fake place. It's a fake chimney on a fake house.
The house has been
The house has been ruined, gutted.
pretty much gutted.
The only
yeah.
thing left is the original framing on the front. The windows have been removed.
It's
An
called-
overly scaled, giant, massive L was added to it.
Facading. That's all that's left
That
is the
house is
facade.
gone. So no, that's not a good example. It's terrible.
Can I speak for a moment?
Oh, yeah.
Would now be a good time? I just want to say, I have the utmost respect for what this board has done, is doing, and what you're trying to do. I live in a very historic home down the street on 6A from this house. I grew up in a historic home on Old Main Street in South Yarmouth. I understand the importance of preserving historic features of homes, especially when they're mainly visible from the street. I take that very seriously. And so but I also know there's a reasonableness that we have to establish. I know I changed the windows in my house 8 years ago, had this whole debate about windows. I had young kids, we had lead paint issues. And so, I know that we might come down in different areas on this, but to me, to spend the time and energy to put this chimney back to this roof, when there's so much other parts of this house that are wonderful, that I want to preserve, I want to invest in. The main chimney in this house needs a lot of work. You can put your finger through the mortar in it. I want to preserve that chimney. I want to restore it at some point. But to spend the money to put a real masonry chimney through an attic, it seems like a waste of money. Man, I'm gonna be frank with you. I want to shoot straight. But I understand, I respect the board if that's their decision. But I think that's a total waste of money.
And I'll tell you, Mr. Gobian, as a person who's been on this committee now for a little over a year, and I'll just be honest, I'm going to just say, because most people on this committee don't know, only the chair knows, and Lisa, I actually resigned from this committee in November because I had it with the historical inaccuracy that goes on here. And I was asked to stay on by members of the town, by the public, and by the town administrator, and by Dorcas McGurran. I was asked to stay. So I'm here. Because I'll be honest with you, as I sit here right now with my dry mouth, I'm not happy. All right? I'm angry. Because I care about this stuff. It's what I did every day for 35 years in a career. I still do. So it upsets me when decisions are made recklessly, and I've seen a lot on this committee. I watched years of meetings, not a full year, before I volunteered to join. And so, please, I'm speaking.
Get to the point.
So, I'm getting to my point.
Very good.
All right? Don't interrupt me, please. So, I'm here to try to fix that, all right? Because, yes, next to the Friday Club, it is dreadful what has happened and what was approved by this committee. Dreadful. 500 Route 6A, approved by this committee. Dreadful. All wrong. That's not me speaking, that's preservation. And so we all drive by it. I drive by that house every day, twice a day, next to the Friday Club, and I look at it and I think, as far as I'm concerned, it should be gone. It doesn't exist anymore as a historic house. 500 Route 6A, which you pointed out at our meeting, no longer exists. It is no longer a historic house. It is not a bad-looking house for a new house, but it's a horrible-looking house for a historic house because it's no longer historic. In fact, I'm sure if I reported it to the National Trust, they'd remove it as a contributing structure to the district. That's the level of destruction that happened, all with the blessing of this committee. So my point here is to, and why I'm still here, even though I'd rather not be, is to try to make this committee make appropriate preservation decisions based on accepted preservation practice and not their whims or what they think looks good
Rick,
or not.
Can I say one thing? I understand your point.
Appointed by the town to do so.
I brought up 500 Route 6A because I agree.
You, as I'm yelling, forgive me.
I'm not taking this personally. I brought up 500 Route 6A because, to me, that's an extreme example of this conversation. You have an historic home, historic cape with an L. Both those chimneys were very visible from the street.
Beautiful.
This house, you have to. There's maybe little glimpses on the side where you would see this chimney.
But, you know, no one looks at a building like, we live in a three-dimensional world. And as you drive down the road, you see it. I mean, even the awful house next to the Friday Club, and it's a terrible house now, from the street, from the front, looks pretty good. But that's if you just stand in front and look at it. If you go to either side, and there's nothing left in there. There's nothing.
But can I just make one point? I'll stop talking. I grew up here on the Cape. I plan on dying on the Cape, Lord willing. We'll see. I have 3 young kids. I care deeply about the history of these homes. I think swinging too far to the other extreme is a big mistake. And this is not just my personal place. I think anyone who interacts with this committee, it's going to encourage more people to do things and not involve you, which we know happens all the time.
Be fine, sir. You know, and you got a letter that, you know, and I'll be honest with you, I am the one that undertook writing that letter. I am the one that moved forward with it because I was upset about it when I heard it. I'm the one, if you listen to our last meeting, who argued because you hadn't come before us that we should fine you. All right? And we have people, the public is here, who have come out on a Monday night who care deeply about this, who are upset about it because they see the erosion of all of our historic fabric. They see it every day.
We got to stay in the middle line here, being reasonable, though.
I understand what you're saying.
Go too far, and
people are just going to do what they want.
Yeah, or it's going to disillusion the public from interacting with this board in a healthy way.
Well, what I don't understand, though, quite frankly, is why anyone would buy a historic house. Listen, I 2.5. Let me finish my point. If they're not willing to take it on, when we moved here, I wanted to buy a historic house. My husband was like, I don't want a project. We're not buying a historic house. I wanted one. I fantasized about owning one. And the conversation was like, I ain't taking that on. I'm tired of being constantly maintaining my house. We had a 1970s modernist house, which was a historic house, and it required a lot of work. It was just one project after another. Windows with seals blown, chimneys, roofs that had to be redone. So I understand it, and it is nice living in a 20-year-old house that doesn't have those problems with air conditioning. So I would just say to people, don't buy an old house, particularly one that's historic, particularly one on Route 6A, if you're not willing to accept, and all these folks that have historic houses, the chairman as well, Mr. Stewart, all of these people, Cindy Ecker, know that it's a love-hate relationship. It is absolutely a love-hate. The joys are wonderful. The curses are horrible of a historic house. It's the nature of the beast.
Can I speak very briefly?
No, well, go ahead.
I just want to say, Jesse, that I hear you, and I'm the solar advocate on the board, everybody knows, and very frustrated by the denials that we constantly get because they're visible. And I do think that you're quite accurate that there needs to be reasonableness involved. However, we have a room full of people who want that chimney back. And I think that oftentimes what has decided whether we follow what is minimally visible and what is reasonable, and everybody has a different opinion, we now have the public here who are asking for that chimney to be restored, and that is part of what we're supposed to do.
Want the chimney back?
They want the visible part back. That's why it doesn't need to come up from the floor up.
Why don't we open more comment? I mean, this is an important issue.
I agree. I agree.
Please, Mrs. Grady.
I have a couple of points. Number one, you're not just a solar advocate. You're here to represent an entire community of historic homes and 1970s ranches, okay? Number two, Jesse, you're here because you did something without a permit and without an application. All of us here have come before this board at one time or another for minor changes because it's our duty to do that and because we try to follow these regulations. You didn't do it, and you need to accept the consequences for it. So if they say, we didn't say rebuild the chimney, but if that's what they say you need to do, you need to pay attention to that. The 1940s bit, you're a real estate agent. You can go down to the cobbler shop as a member of the Historical Society and look up the file, like I did, on that home to know that it was not built in the 1940s. Anyway, thank you.
Lisa, when was the house built then?
The house was built circa 1800. You can pick up a book of the old Yarmouth book, the old Yarmouth Homes and Gathering Places. All of us use that book in real estate.
You're misinterpreting what, it asked for a specific date, and there's no date about this home.
You could have elaborated. I've seen a lot of good stewards come up to this table.
I think it's unfortunate, Lisa, that you're taking that personally.
I'm not taking
Yeah.
it personally. I'm taking it for all of us in the historic
I
district.
did not put 1940 on that application for any other purpose than that. That's the only date there was.
Should have elaborated.
I put a question mark next to it.
That's not enough.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak to this at this point? Okay, well, it seems,
There's a motion.
has there been a motion made?
Yes, I made a motion.
It was awfully long. Maybe we could make a shorter
make
one?
it
Make it again.
succinctly?
I move that the chimney be I move that this committee require that the chimney be reconstructed starting below the roof line in the attic at the owner's discretion in consultation with his mason, in the original configuration, to come out through the roof in the original location to match the height, width, and depth, match the design as is evidenced in photographs, which can be done by counting bricks. Both in that you can do that, the width and the depth, you can determine pretty accurately how big it is, to the original configuration
Now,
as
when
it
we-
existed prior to its demolition.
All right. I second that.
Okay, there's been a motion made, it's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And aye. So, you have the right to appeal. You know that. Okay. That concludes the items on the agenda for this evening. We need to approve the...
Excuse me.
The minutes of the January 22nd
Bob, can I-
meeting? Yes, Jesse.
We vote on the second part of this, please?
The window?
It's the door with the window.
Okay.
thought you
Could
removed
could you flush out that for us, because we want to make sure that we're all on the same page and know which door and which window we're talking about.
The patio door, I believe I gave you a picture of that.
Kitchen?
Yeah. It's not historic, my understanding. It's probably 15, 20 years old, the door.
This
And
one?
yes, exactly. And
Move it and put a double hung window in?
yes. And my plan was to put a two single pane to match the bay windows on the other side.
Jesse, do you not want to open the door that has been sealed up that's just to the right of that?
Not at this point. We're just going to go through the rear of the house,
How are you going to gain access to the patio?
to the rear of the house. It's just through one room. Yeah.
Okay, everyone understand that portion of the application?
We want it to be a 1/1.
A site visit, you guys did, so.
Just,
We didn't make a site visit, you
No.
did.
Yeah.
So
So
you're,
is that 6/6, Jesse? Is that the grid pattern? 6/6
No,
now?
it would be 1/1,
just to clear up, on-
matching the other windows in the room there.
there is a bay, a non-historic bay window that exists on the east side of the house, which is just 1/1. It's nothing special at all. And Jesse would like to replace, so it matches, on the west side, what is now a patio door with, I think it's 12 divided lights, a Brasco patio door. It's nothing special. It's a modern door with a window there, because there'll be a counter there to match the other window, which is existing, the bay window. Well, obviously, it's not a bay window, but it would be a 1/1 like the bay window is 1/1.
Okay?
That, I would argue, is definitely not visible from the street.
And the window.
So you're removing it.
Would you agree with me, Rick, that the door in question is not of historic value?
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
And the reason I'm suggesting, because we discussed this in the house, was there is, if you're inside the house, to the right of this door, a visible exterior solid beaded door, which is permanently affixed shut, and framing in there that was infilled. So the door from the outside was visible, but there was nothing there. There was no opening. And so I was just suggesting if you wanted to move the door to where we have historic evidence of a door once existing on the outside, it looks like a door is there, but there is no door there. And he doesn't want to do that at present.
Okay.
All right, so we understand the application.
I have
Is
one,
there-
I have one question,
Yes.
please. In the application, it says the window to be trimmed with wood and AZEK. I have a bit of a problem with AZEK on 1820's house.
Oh.
What is your intention, Jesse, to trim that new window? Wood or AZEK?
I would defer to AZAC because it's not visible from the street. It's
Would
not,
be painted.
yeah, it'd be painted. You wouldn't know the difference from a distance of a few feet.
I don't know, that's my concern. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels.
I'm okay with it.
I am as well. I'm just curious, as an aside, did anyone get to go? I sent to the committee the National Register, actually it was the National Park Service had that online thing about using substitute materials. Did
Oh, right.
anyone get to do it?
We can.
It was very
We
interesting.
can access it, though. It's
I-
yeah.
Can you
don't
still
have-
access
Yeah,
it?
you don't have to
Be
be
there
there
when they
at
do
that
the live,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there is, and I'll just say out there is, if you go to the National Park Service, they have been starting to do seminars on preservation briefs. One of them is about using substitute materials, and with cellular PVC or AZEK being one of them that was discussed and now is generally accepted as being good, provided it's in kind of trim in this type of application. So I have no problem with it either, because you cannot tell that it is not wood when it's painted.
Well, thank you, that's good to know.
All right, so are we going to divide up this application then? Because we're,
I think it probably should have been 2 applications to begin with,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Is it rather straightforward, though, or?
it's very straightforward. It's just, to my way of thinking, it's just a question of how to,
Especially if he.
Yeah, what you have is a
Might
demolition, application for demolition, and also, but we've got replacing doors and windows in the same application.
I know.
We struck one of the,
House-facing window with patio door, that's being removed. He has withdrawn that, so we can strike that. Replace upstairs rear south-facing window with new double hung with, that has been struck. And Jesse, as I promised you, I will give you that information. I'm sorry I haven't gotten to you already about how to deal with that on the interior. So really, the only, am I right? The only thing we're dealing with, we have denied the demolition of and in fact, we have said he has to rebuild it. And he wants to, then the only thing remaining, please correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse, is to replace the west-facing side door in the L with a double-hung window.
correct.
That's right.
Only thing that remains.
That's right,
But we
so,
have to figure out how to
So-
approach this.
So we approve, he has withdrawn the bottom 2. So those are withdrawn from this application, they're not even something we have to vote on, it's been withdrawn. We have taken action on the
think we might have to
demolition, which
deny.
effectively is no longer a demolition permit. And
I think what we have to do is deny the application and have you reapply for the,
Oh.
And we won't charge you for a reapplication fee.
Yeah, it should have been
Yeah.
two
Second part.
applications.
I think that's the cleanest way of dealing with it.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Why is that?
Because
It's-
went forward with
It's
a,
deny, approve on the same
we
application.
have to follow the agenda.
Should have been a demolition application separately from whatever you're
Well,
changing.
let me just.
I
put it out
can't, I can't put that window in next week, you're saying?
Well, let me just put this out there. Maybe suggest,
Well,
maybe,
I-
could we, being that,
We could approve
do we
only
need
the
to
window.
deny the demolition application? Could we simply require it to be added? I know that sounds weird, just trying to make it easy. Or
We could approve the window now and get rid of all the other elements and then deal with the chimney.
Exemption for the window.
You can do it either way.
we could issue an exemption for the window.
Yeah, why not?
All right,
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
I'd save your time and my time, have to do this again.
Exactly.
okay. Yeah, it seems like,
So you don't have to pay for it,
No.
right? I think that's fair. If you could, I'm sure Lisa would help you, put an exemption in for the window, which is approved effectively, it will be. And
window.
Again,
Right.
we should ask Mr. Chairman whether the public has any comment on it, I suppose.
I think it's of such,
Does anyone
would all
care
of you
about that?
agree that it's of such minor concern that we don't have to notify all the public of this? We're talking about the new patio door,
Quite
and
frankly, it looked better than the patio door.
the reason this is being brought up is that at a previous hearing, an applicant came before us with a request to demolish a portion of Vanilla Edition, and on the fly, he said, no, I want to demolish the entire L. And I mistakenly allowed it to happen, and it was appealed by the abutters because they weren't given proper notice and didn't show up at the hearing.
Matt.
So I don't want to run into that again. So it looks, I'm going to surmise that those of you who are present in the back row constitute the majority or will be in touch with the majority of people who feel so fervently about this chimney, and that you don't feel at all fervently about the new patio door. So, good, all right.
So if you submit that
My
exemption,
concern
we'll
is because if
immediately
he does
approve it.
appeal, we have to deny the removal of the chimney.
He has to resubmit as a
Well,
demolition.
that's what we're doing, correct?
I don't believe we,
Well, it wasn't, that's
To
what I'm saying, it
deny
wasn't
anything.
applied as a demolition permit.
right, so maybe whatever vote we took about rebuilding is really moot because it's not
Oh, I
part
don't
of
think
the-
so. I think what we're saying is it's not it wasn't a demolition, so all we're doing is making the chimney be rebuilt.
All right, if I were a lawyer, I would recommend that you also vote to deny the removal of the chimney, as that is what has been published on your agenda.
That,
Should we ask him to submit a second certificate of
well,
demolition? for the chimney?
that's what we were discussing.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out how to do this,
and
because
And I think the safety net
it's
is
probably the
just to
cleanest way of
deny.
dealing with it, frankly.
Well,
So,
Well, we have a request for demolition, and we have a request for a new window. Would it not be better for us to now deal with the request for demolition, the demo request?
what I'm
right
recommending.
now?
Yeah.
And he withdraws the request for the window, which he is going to apply for an exemption.
Yes.
Which quite frankly, either I or Bob would have approved without you ever knowing, because it would have been such a minor thing.
Yes, let's do
So-
that.
So you wouldn't have even come, but we also, the committee would approve it anyway. But again, that would have been handled
So-
by me or Bob without anyone even knowing it had happened. So,
Move,
I think what my esteemed colleague at the other end is suggesting is that it's not a proper demolition application to begin with.
correct. And I think in order to deal with the what's been submitted to us to discuss and approve or deny is the removal of a chimney. To make this clean, what we say is, no, we deny the removal of the chimney.
retroactively
well,
issue, have a demolition
how about this?
permit
How about if we
and
did
so we
this?
can deny it.
What if we did this way? What if we make a motion to approve the demolition? No one is going, no, can I have a motion to approve the demolition of the chimney?
No, I wouldn't
And
approve
No
it.
one's going to say, but let's hear it through.
I see, then we all deny it?
No one's going to say yes. No one here is going to make that motion. And
Okay,
then
we could go
the
that
chairman
way.
says, do I have a motion to require the
don't think-
reconstruction of the chimney? Which I've already made that motion. And then we've dealt with that.
How would you like to deal with it?
Well, it doesn't really matter how we get to the end result. We all know what we've
Yes.
voted on. So,
Amendment saying that, you know, you could have as Liz had said, you know, you could have a situation where you would deny it or have a motion not to
Remove
to
the chimney.
allow it.
Yeah.
And then have an amendment to the application saying that you can't remove, you have to rebuild the chimney.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to do.
So we don't have the motion, the chairman asks for it, but we don't have a motion to approve the demolition. And then someone, please makes a motion to require the reconstruction of the chimney that we approve. And doesn't that
well,
feel
isn't
like
it?
we could move to deny the demolition
Correct.
and vote on that.
Yeah, that's
And
what we
then
have to
have
do.
the subsequent motion.
Right.
The
To
problem is
reconstruct.
that
That's where
there's
I-
not
that's
been
where I
a
don't know the
certificate of
legalities of it. I always
demolition
thought we had
request.
to make the motion on what he's asking right away, but you might not have the motion. Do I hear a motion?
You still get back to the same point that
Yeah,
it's not,
I think
it's not a demolition permit. It wasn't
We
applied
didn't
for.
request a
that's what I'm-
certificate of demolition.
No,
Should have
to
been a
remove
separate
chimney.
document.
It's not a demolition, it's not a demolition.
I need to sign anything?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
No, because
not
the
legal.
exemption for the window, you won't have to sign for.
All done?
All right.
So we're kind of stuck here, I think.
Well, let's unstuck ourselves.
Yeah, let's figure out what
so-
we can do.
My question to you, Lisa, was can we have this demolition permit issued retroactively, in effect?
No,
I mean,
you have to
it's a
advertise
demolition
it.
request.
You have to advertise it.
Yes, he's right. I mean, we have to advertise it. That's why I'm saying,
Well,
let's just deal with what we have.
okay, so can we just say it's a semantic issue? Removal is essentially demolition.
Well, the applicant is leaving.
I go with
the-
Jesse.
Just to cover what we've done here tonight, if I move that we deny the applicant's request to remove the chimney.
All right, is there a second for that?
Second it.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of denial?
Denial, aye.
Aye, all right,
Okay, so now I'll make the motion.
okay,
Do I have to make it again?
You really don't.
let's do it.
I move that we require the applicant to reconstruct the now demolished chimney as it existed from below the roof using real, full-size masonry bricks and appropriate historic mortar to match the existing or formerly existing configuration as demonstrated and it is clearly visible in documented photographs submitted to this committee.
I have a
Is there a
question.
second to that motion? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Question on that motion, please. Are we going to require that he use historically accurate brick or historical brick?
No.
It's available.
I will amend my motion.
Oh, boy.
The bricks used must match in size and color those that were demolished.
How are we going to determine?
Has them on site.
He does?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, second,
all right. All in favor?
aye.
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 Now, the question remains, if the applicant wanted to appeal this, have we done this legally?
I think we've just taken care of meeting what he asked for, we have now answered. So yes, if he goes in and he says, I want to appeal their denial, because that's what he's would have to do.
Yes.
I think we have.
Okay.
I think we've given it a,
We'll find out, and if and when he appeals.
I'm not convinced. I think the application was wrong to begin with.
You can give Jim a call, and if he says, now you need a demolition application, fine, get a
Let's
demolition
do it.
application.
there's no damage.
No.
I think
No
that's
harm, no
the
foul.
healthy way.
Are you all having fun back there?
Can we have a I'm sorry, I've lost track. Do we also have a motion to approve the window replacing the door? Can we do that as part of the
No,
same
that's not going to be part of it. That's going to be,
We're going to handle that as an exemption.
Yeah.
Which will be
Okay.
done which will be done, either Bob or I will handle it. We're kind of splitting exemption duty. And quite frankly, he would have been entitled to put it in as an exemption, being that that's really not visible. And we could have just handled it. You wouldn't have even known it happened. If everything that came through as an exemption came before the committee, we'd be here almost as long as we are right now.
Thank you.
All right. So,
Okay.
to continue, if I may,
you guys are all done.
so,
We hope you're pleased.
Oh, yeah.
all right, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, we need to approve the minutes of the January 22nd.
Move to
meeting.
approve the January 22nd minutes.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Abstain.
Other business. I represented our committee at an appeal hearing in Sandwich. It was an interesting appeal. It involved a development very large development in Sandwich that I'd never been before, that extends from 6A down to Cape Cod Bay. And it was established in 1926, and there are a lot of houses in this development with side roads, and there was a prime lot on a bluff that had a view of the bay. And the house that was proposed to be put on this lot was quite attractive and was approved by the committee, and the committee's decision was appealed by neighbors within the association because they considered that it was too large and inappropriate for the setting, and also that there was a historic byway that led down to the water, and this house would loom over the byway. And the Sandwich Town Committee decision was unanimously upheld by the regional commissioners, I among them, because we deemed that the house was not too large, it was not monstrous. This historic byway was a 50-yard footpath down from one dead end, from one cul-de-sac to another, and that really, in reality, whereas one would never like to assign motives to people who are unhappy, that what this was really about was an obstruction of the view of the abutters, and of course, we don't protect views. So the only other thing I want to say with regard to mistakes that have been made by this committee, because it's been mentioned with some degree of passion by the vice chairman, I would certainly admit to having made mistakes in the past, having been party to mistakes that were made by the past, in as much as I was on this committee when there were decisions made that could be construed as mistakes. So, for my part in that, mea culpa. I am
We've
still
also been
learning.
taken advantage of. We've been taken advantage of left and right. There's so many people that agree to do something and it doesn't get done.
Well, let us.
So,
let us
yes,
learn
I
from
would concur that the mistakes were not entirely of our own making, that we've dealt with some interesting applicants who have taken some liberties with decisions that we've made. And enforcement of those applicants is very tricky. By rule in the bulletin, that authority lies with the the building inspector. And that makes perfect sense, because all of us here on this, seated on this committee are volunteers. We have no legal protections if should there be litigation, which is entirely possible, whereas town employees are protected.
Town represents
so-
us if we're sued.
I was in court
Yeah,
for interfering with a home improvement
Mm-hmm.
project.
yeah.
I paid for my own attorney.
Oh, wow.
If I could speak to this for a moment.
Uh-oh.
Well, no, it's we're having a conversation about it, because
It's 9:30.
Yeah.
sorry, but I mean, these are important things. So, and as I said, and most of you probably heard it for the first time tonight, I resigned from this committee out of my frustration. If you have noted, there has been a change in the way I've been behaving on this committee for about 2 months. And that change has been I'm far more forceful in what I speak to and what I fight for. Because in the past, I've been kind of taking a back seat, and I'm not doing that anymore. And one of the things, and in fairness to me, that I find, and that's okay, I'm okay, it's okay to offend me, is the very continual, sir, by you, reference to experts outside of this committee, which, quite frankly, you have one. You have a registered architect here, deals with contractors. I don't lay brick. I don't know how to do it. I wouldn't be able to do it well. I wish I did. I probably can't hit 5 nails straight into a piece of wood, but I know how it's done. I write specifications for these things that contractors must follow. I'm the boss in these instances. I'm the one that tells them what to do. They don't tell me what to do as an architect. So the reality is there is an expert on this committee, a registered architect, used to be in 3 states, now it's only 1 because I live here, preservation architect. So we needn't look elsewhere. First, not to say my opinion should carry the day every day. I'm not suggesting that. But there is an expert here. And quite frankly, an expert who's in the order of things on jobs at the top, the architect, not the contractor, not the builder, not even the owner. It's the architect. So with that in mind, I'd hope people would keep that in mind when I do voice opinions on preservation and on practice. When it comes down to whether you like something or not, that's one thing. But I do know what I'm speaking of, and it is, quite frankly, insulting. When I have an expert who's going to come in. Well, you've got one. He sits on this committee. And I'm a preservation architect, so please keep that in mind when making these things, because I feel often like my opinion carries as much weight as anyone else's. And many times it does. Color things, but sometimes it
A
does.
preservation carpenter.
Yeah.
So,
We have
I-
another
I-
one
Hit
here.
the nails.
We don't need to look outside of this committee.
I
We
think,
have the expertise
I
here.
think that you are an expert, and the rest of us on this committee are also experts in our own fields. And that was the point I was trying to make about my experience, and John has his experience, and Liz has her experience.
think we're a committee.
We're all experts in our own fields, and people outside of this committee could be, to some degree, more expert than any of us. So I don't see any reason why it's anathema
The board, though.
to.
I don't see anyone applying to take our position on this
No,
board.
that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, yeah, I'm sure there are some people who are much smarter and more.
So I see nothing, I don't see anything wrong. I'm frankly, I'm baffled at the resistance to having other opinion
I'm happy
on a
to
given
have
subject,
other
on a
opinions.
given subject.
But to
And
defer to those opinions.
I'm not saying I would defer, but in this particular instance, my judgment about the original location, you can argue about whether it should be put back in the original location, or whether it would be more appropriate, according to Secretary of Interior standards, to put it where it currently resided before Jesse took it down. That's a reasonable discussion, AKA argument, to have. But the question of whether it can be determined or not is a different issue.
Well, no, I
And
agree that it can be.
my point was, I believe it can be determined where that chimney was. Now, maybe it's irrelevant. subsumed by the Secretary of Interior standards, that's a reasonable argument. But you said it was conjectural. And I'm not certain, I don't agree that it's conjectural. I think it can be determined. So the overriding point is, I'll say it again, we're all experts on this committee in our own, and we all deserve respect for our opinions and our expertise. So let's all bear that in mind too. I don't feel that I've been disrespectful or that anyone else on this committee has been disrespectful, specifically to you, Rick. But we all have a body of knowledge based on our own experience and a wealth of knowledge based on our own experience.
Well, you see, I'm
So-
always looking to Liz, asking her questions of things,
Right.
of which I know not. But I will say, but the greater point here, and you said, Bob, we've been taken, the committee's been taken with things. There have been things that have been missed, like even 500, I'll just say. Those chimneys, there's a rendering. You look at the documents on that. There are renderings, nice renderings, aerial views down on the building. There are no chimneys on it. It was approved as was. I mean, that's something I could never conceive of missing. But people missed it. I'm not perfect either. What I would say, and the reason I'm still here, the only reason I'm still here, is because I do care deeply about it. Sometimes, my feeling terrible. And I would take what Lisa Grady said really to heart. And I thought what she read was very good. I think moving forward, that this committee needs to be far more strict when dealing with truly historic structures.
But we run into the issue of truly historic structures, Rick, because as you've pointed out to me, all of those 1970s ranch houses are truly historic.
Well, not
So I think we should adjourn because this is
no,
a conversation.
That's not true.
But you know what, though? I think I will.
You want to keep it on?
I agree with Rick that I think it's important that we clear the air of this, all of this, because I want a well-functioning committee.
And I do too.
And I want a committee where everybody on the committee is respected for his or her opinion and is listened to and is valued. And I think that that's not unrealistic or a Pollyanna approach to where I see my role as chairman of the committee, is to try to keep a cohesive committee. Not that we're going to agree on everything, not that we don't occasionally get a little bit heated about certain subjects.
Well, that's our passion for it.
That's fine, but cohesion and civility is also important because we're presenting ourselves to the public.
That's
So-
my
and it's not- the
problem.
public doesn't just consist of those people in the
I don't
back
think we
row.
were uncivil today.
I think we were, and I think that it was not a good meeting. And I would also ask that we all recognize that we have a chairman, and I would give Rob some more confidence in asking us to, A, move things along and get to the point, and B, to keep a little lid on some passions.
I know you're talking to me. I think sometimes passion is required, and most of the time I keep the lid on it. But I think at times things, in the interest of moving things along, we don't fully discuss things either. So I'm going to, quite frankly, continue to be who I am. Most of the time, I'm not that person. But I do think, quite frankly, sometimes things want to be moved along a little too quickly when they need to be fully fleshed out and discussed. And sometimes it gets heated when we discuss things.
But I do think we all need to give Bob the chair position. And when he is in judgment that enough is enough, that we hear him and give him that.
Thank you for that. I'm not thin-skinned, for one thing. So just to let you know, I don't take any of this
and forgive me,
personally.
but being that we're just discussing things, forgive me, but I have to say, sometimes, Liz, I feel you moderate the meeting, which quite frankly irritates me.
Well, I don't know why you feel that, but.
You coach, you push.
Well, wait a minute,
you
wait a minute.
prompt.
Okay. All right.
So there it
Okay,
is. I
maybe,
put it out.
These are all things that should be discussed in an executive session.
Probably.
I think we need an executive session, and we don't have to ask the lawyer for this. We're totally entitled to have it.
I make a motion that we set a date in the near future for an executive session.
Lisa,
I
the
second
denial,
that.
do we have to sign the denial?
Yeah.
Okay, let's sign the denial. Okay.
Can I,
See, there I'm moderating
while we're
again,
signing,
damn it.
Can I bring one thing up that's completely unrelated to this most recent discussion?
Yes.
So I've noticed a couple of violations that I don't think have been addressed. One was brought to my attention by an abutter on 378 Route 6A, pretty large, beautiful house.
378?
Apparently was recently purchased, and they removed the cedar shake roof and put on an asphalt shingle roof without going before Old Kings Highway for permission. I'm not sure if any of you are aware of
What
that,
number is
but
this, Cindy?
abutters are pretty upset about it.
She said 378.
378, as you said?
Yes.
Well, we can just cross it out,
They
right?
took
It was
off
done in,
a cedar shingle
apparently it
roof
was
and
done
put
in
on...
November.
Now, I hate to bring this up, but Jesse Agopian has a brand new roof on that house, and there was no application. I wasn't gonna bring it up during the meeting.
It says chimney removed without permission.
But it was...
So that house has a new asphalt shingle roof. It's a beautiful historic house.
Had a wood roof?
Yes.
Keep me in line.
There's
came
another
down
one
to-
that I've mentioned, but I don't
I'm
know the
sorry,
exact-
so it was 378, and what was the other one?
The other one, I don't know the address. It is on Union Street, right where Starbuck and Pine Street come in, just beyond that where Holbrook's Tree Farm was. They sold it, and the new owner put up a fence around the entire property that was never requested permission. Now, and related to that point, I know you guys approve exemptions. So if I see something like this giant fence, I don't know if an exemption has been submitted for it. So I'm wondering if there's some way that Lisa or Rick or we can have some sort of a process where we're notified of exemptions that are approved. So when we drive by and see them, we don't go, oh, there's another violation. We don't realize it was actually an exemption that was approved. Is there some
Good point.
process that we can be notified of those?
For reporting violations, is that what you mean?
No.
She wants to know
When
something that-
exemption is approved and it doesn't come before the committee. So if an exemption is
She
approved,
would
like your
assume.
fence around your generator fence, Bob, that was an exemption. I never saw that
So
request for
she would think
exemption.
it was
How do I
somebody doing
know
something.
when an exemption's been submitted and approved if I never see it?
Exemptions are typically approved by the chair or the vice
She
chair.
wants a list of
Right,
them
so
so she
I
doesn't
think
jump
we
down
need to be
people's
right.
backs,
Oh, you want to know?
thinking they're
I don't know.
out of line.
For a
Is there
while.
some
Yeah,
process
we were
so
doing
we
that
can
for
be
a while.
notified?
Yeah, quite a ways back, yeah. Just a list of exemptions.
Just if Lisa can send us any approved
Yeah.
exemptions so we're aware, that's all. Is there some process?
Express,
Fell
right?
by the wayside.
2003.
Yeah.
It's not too cumbersome.
She can do it, Lisa can do it.
Well, if it came to it, I was gonna call him on it, if it didn't come to it. Okay.
Cindy, I will say, it would be, I don't know what's been going on with you, but it is very hard to hear you. And
I know, I'm sorry. I've had shoulder surgery. I can't drive. So by next
Oh.
meeting, I should be able to get
Oh,
in
I'm
there.
sorry.
I would have driven you. Did you need a ride? I live right around the corner.
I know. By next meeting, I should be good.
Oh, let's see, where's the clip for this?
Okay.
All right, so anyway, anything else?
There's, you know what, the house next to the Friday Club, did we approve an octagonal window in the side of that?
I don't remember.
We'd have to pull out the
Somebody, I
plans.
just noticed it today, this afternoon.
The only thing they don't have on that house is a water slide.
Kidding.
Well, should we review it?
Really?
I-
It doesn't matter at this point.
No, it does, as it can be seen clearly driving down the street.
Well, if you guys want to.
I'll see if I can find it
I
on the
think they should put a
application.
water slide on the roof.
It's
All right. Okay.
heartbreaking.
Have we had enough fun tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could I hear a motion to adjourn, please?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.